introduced by someone who knows this category very well. Class of 2022 Hall of Fame member and Saddleback General Manager Jim Quimby. Jim?
Thank you all. I'm Jim Quimby, General Manager of Saddleback, like Lisa just said. I appreciate being here today. First of all, I want to thank the Hall of Fame for recognizing Tom's lifetime achievements. I also want to thank Andy Shepard, who wrote the nomination package for Tom. And I want to thank the Maine Ski and Snowboard Museum for sponsoring this great event. Thank you everybody for coming here. Thank you to all of our Saddleback friends that made that long trip from Rangeley, Maine over here to recognize Tom's lifetime achievements. So anyway, I've known Tom pretty much my whole life. He was a very close friend of both my parents. They both worked for Tom for years on the mountain. For those of us who literally grew up on Saddleback, we looked up to Tom. It was very evident to us that actually grew up on Saddleback, that he cared about us, and he cared about all of the kids and all the people that skied there, and we appreciated him. So Tom was a general manager at Saddleback for almost 30 years. He worked at Saddleback for almost 40 years, and that's a reign of, as a general manager that is probably one of the longest in the ski business, I would say. So I want to recognize him for that accomplishment. He saw Saddleback through many obstacles and challenges, from bank closures to a number of other things, the Appalachian Trail, and I'll talk about some of that stuff in a minute. But he was a very solid man, very passionate about the business, very quiet, very strong-willed. And I knew him after I got out of the military, and I worked for Tom for years, and he was just a straight shooter, and it was a joy to work for him. As a child, he learned to ski on the Ellis Farm Field, which is one of the little farms on the way into Rangeley. Later, he skied at Saddleback. In high school, he preferred skiing over basketball. Little did he know how involved in the ski industry this would become. His life was devoted to alpine skiing. He started in Saddleback in fall of '68 as a ski patroller. He was seasonal for years. Then he came to head patroller. He was appointed mountain manager for some years, excuse me, under Roger Page and Dick Frost and John Christie. During the hard times in the '70s, when hard times fell on Saddleback and the bank took it over, Tom managed the ski air operation for the banks until a group of people took it over. So a group of 4 or 5 condo owners took it over and brought the operation back for the bank, and then Tom was also an owner of that. Fairly quickly, the group sold to a guy named Don Green, and then Tom was permanently appointed the general manager. He was also the general manager under the Berry family where I worked there. Tom worked on the new old base lodge under the contractor Ronald Sargent in 1968. He also managed the new base lodge under his son, Steve Sargent, in 2004, and that was quite a project to be involved with. He has a lot of friends here, with Greg Sweetzer's here, and Bruce Johnson's here, and others here, and Jim and Kathy, of course. But he was a big part of our life at Saddleback. He was fun. He enjoyed his work. He enjoyed the people that skied there, and we miss him. Tom said he's done just about every job on the mountain except for working in the nursery. He loved mowing and going out and getting on the tractor and getting out of the office. He loved the mechanical stuff more than the office stuff, I know that for sure. He was involved in many major projects, from the condos built in the 80s to the actual very rebuild in 2004 through 2006 and 7 and 8, which was huge, as I was very young there and started there, and but it was great to be part of, and he was a great leader. He worked for literally every owner except for the original group of local folks who started the ski air with Roger Page. For many years, Tom and his wife Evelyn lived on the mountain. They lived downstairs in the base lodge, which was the nursery at one time, and moved to the White Birch condos in '94, till '94, then moved to his permanent home on Saddleback Lake, which he had a great view of the mountain, so he could literally keep an eye on it all the time. Hundreds of employees worked for him. Tom so appreciated the wonderful crews. He thought the world of some of the people he worked with. He was also instrumental in the 20-year deal at the Appalachian Trail. He went to Washington to meet with senators, endless meetings with the groups, hosting mountaintop meetings with dignitaries, and all the negotiations until it was settled. And after it was settled, it was sold to the Berries almost immediately. So that was really big for Saddleback at the time. He was the secretary of the Maine Ski Association for many years. He was also a huge advocate of various ski trades organizations, associations from the Ski Maine Association, Eastern Ski Area Association, United States Ski Association. He attended every meeting and convention possible, including the national annual conventions. Tom felt it was paramount to be at the table with his counterparts in competition. In fact, your competitors became your friends, and you began to work with them, share knowledge, and learn a lot of things from them. Sorry, I don't see well. Tom never missed Ski Maine's annual fall meeting and dinner, usually held at Lost Valleys. In the earlier years, he would bring a group of Saddleback employees. After retirement, he would drive down with Roger Page, who was a member of the very first Ski Hall of Fame, and those meetings were sometimes a hoot. Tom was active in the Ranger community for decades, most notably as president of the Chamber of Commerce and a member of the Maine Forestry Museum Board of Directors, and worked with Maine Land Use Planning Commission. After retirement, Tom and Evelyn traveled this beautiful country of ours for 10 winters in a motorhome, and it was on the return of the final trip that Tom lost his life to brain cancer in 2018 in Greenville, South Carolina. He was 72. As I said, he was a quiet, humble, passionate person who never gave up. He was very connected with the entire staff and the community throughout his tenure there. He was always greet people with a smile and a handshake, and always said thank you. Tom knew my life's goal was to work at Saddleback. He hired Jared and I as full-time year-round employees in 2003 when the Berries first bought the place. I'll forget him for the opportunity he gave me. It was the greatest opportunity I've ever had, so I appreciate that. I know Tom and Roger are smiling over us right now. I can tell a lot more great stories about Tom, but his memory is still with us as I'm talking here, so thank you. So I would like to introduce Jim Wilcox, Tom's lifelong friend.
Sorry to take so long getting here, folks. As Jim said, Tom was my lifelong friend. Tom's family moved to Rangeley when I was in the second grade and Tom joined us. We were good friends growing up through elementary school, junior high school, and high school. And I'm not sure about what I heard Jim misquote this a little, but Tom was a basketball player. I was a skier. But after school, high school, we split up. He went to, well, wait a minute first. We were all good friends back then. In Rangeley, if you only have 12 to 14 kids in your class, you're all good friends. So, very small classes. I went to Farmington, became a school teacher. Tom went to Plymouth State, came back, worked with his dad, arranged the cleaners, and then ski patrol, as Jim said, full-time ski patrol, and then eventually started management. When the bank took over Saddleback, that Jim mentioned, they asked Tom to be manager. There were 5 people involved in owning the mountain. Well, I take that back. 5 people bought the mountain from the bank. Tom was one of them. Thought they were on a shoestring budget. They didn't have a lot of money to spend. This was in the 70s. It was during the oil embargoes. You guys might remember that. Some of you never heard of it, probably. They asked Tom to be manager, which he did. Sitting in his office one day, he answered the phone. And can you guys imagine a manager actually answering the phone? But in those days at Saddleback, you did everything. He answered the phone. There was a gentleman from Massachusetts that said, I would like to book a condo for a week for my family during one of the school vacations. I can't remember which. Tom said, I'm sorry, sir. We're all booked. We didn't have a whole lot of condos, I'm sure. We had, I don't know, maybe 20. The man said, well, are any condos for sale? Tom says, yes, there are condos for sale. He says, in fact, the whole mountain's for sale if you'd like to buy it. The gentleman said, I would like to buy a condo. And if I buy the condo, can I have my family in it for that vacation week? Tom says, if you own the condo, you can do whatever you want. So he said, I'll buy the condo, and when I'm up there, I want to talk to you about buying the mountain. Guess what? He bought the mountain. That gentleman didn't know what he was getting into, because that is the owner that financed the dispute with the Appalachian Trail between Saddleback and the National Park Service. Millions of dollars were spent on the dispute. However, a lot of money went out in the dispute. Little money was left over for the mountain. Tom kept that mountain going. Some people say with baling wire and bubble gum. I know what happened, why, how it was going, because we talked all the time. And you know what? I just lost my place. I lost. I'm going to jump over. That, as I said, that gentleman was financing the dispute between the National Park Service and Saddleback. Tom was the head of that fight for the town, for the state, for the ski area. And there was a lot of traveling involved down to Washington, D.C. to meet with senators. I was involved with Tom. He always was asking me, can you help with this, can you help with that? And one of the things he wanted me to do was serve dinner on top of Saddleback to Olympia Snow's staff. I said, okay, how are we going to do this? He says, well, you're going to take one of the four-wheelers and you're going to take one of the dignitaries up on the back of it to the top of the Canandaigua lift, and then we're going to guide them up to the top, and we're going to walk them all over the top of that mountain, and we're going to show them what we're talking about and have them view the issues. And then you're going to go back down to the lodge, you're going to get the meal, bring it back up, and serve it. I said, it's no problem, except one thing, Tom. I said, what's that? He said, I've never driven a four-wheeler. He said, what? I said, no, never touched it. So he said, come on, I'm going to show you. He taught me how to use the four-wheeler. I took one practice run to the top of the mountain, came back down. A very well-known, and I won't say his name, but lawyer for the state of Maine, jumped on the back of that four-wheeler, and I took him to the top of the mountain. We got up there, and he says, "That was quite a ride, I like that." I said, "I did too, it's only the second time I've ever run one." He hauled off and belted me on the shoulder. He said, "You're a liar." I said, "Yeah, right." We got up to the top, and it's time for me to serve them. They've been walking around, and here I was passing out drinks and sandwiches. And I look over, and on the trail, there are two young people hiking, a young couple. And they were hiking along, and I looked, and that was driving the four-wheeler was my first moment. This is my second moment, because the conversation those people are having on top of the mountain had increased, and a lot of tension was present. And I watched this young couple walking, enjoying the mountain, looking at the view, and here's this group of older people having a meal, arguing, and I said, "Oh, this isn't going to be good." So when they got in earshot, I raised my voice, and I said, "Hey, where are you folks from?" And they told me. And everybody stopped talking, looked at this young couple, and something special happened. They started talking to this young couple of hikers. And then they started asking them questions about skiing versus hiking, skiing at Saddleback versus hiking across the top of Saddleback. The tensions went way down. It was a starting point. But that was one of the ways Tom did things. He's had people like me serve dinners in strange places. It worked. It worked well. I will not carry on quite so much as I don't want to carry on. I'll put it that way. I have two more stories about Tom. Jim, by the way, asked me, "I don't want you to talk about anything except your friendship with Tom in relation to Saddleback." Tom and I knew each other for 65 years, as we said. One of my favorite memories of Tom, I would get a message, whether I was teaching skiing for Roger Page, or hosting, or working full-time at the mountain at the end of my life, or my career, I should say. I'd get a message, "Meet me at the bottom of the big chairlift, 9 o'clock. And I would. I knew what it meant. We'd go skiing. Tom would come. We did this periodically. Greet the lift attendant, "How are you today?" He knew them all by name. "Any problems? How's the machine?" Go up the top, talk to the top attendant. We would ski, check the ski conditions, check the grooming, talk about stuff. Went right across every trail on the mountain. An hour later, we've ridden every lift, skied every trail. He goes back to the office, I go back to work. I get an easy break, he was working the whole time. That was one of my better memories, was meet me at the bottom of the range. I knew it was going to be a good day of skiing. And the other thing I bet Jim has asked me to make sure I include, and told him about it 2 days ago. Then I had to tell him to back off, it really wasn't that funny. Back when times were hard and they were not much money, Tom was keeping it together with Vail and Twine, as I said. I was in the office one day. Tom was starting to be beat on pretty hard by season pass holders, condo holders, people wanting to see the mountain expand, wanting to see more lifts. He was caught in the middle because he wasn't being given any money to operate, to increase and do that stuff with. But he wasn't admitting that to everybody but me. I was trying to convince him we really need to put a new T-bar in and replace this old one. He was always very quiet, very gentle and kind. He looked me right in the eye. He said, Jim, if it's made of steel, we can fix it. And I said, and I took that on as one of my philosophy of life. When things got hard, I would say to myself, if your backbone's made of steel, you can fix it. Jim knows, I know for sure because I heard it from the horse's mouth. When he hired Jim Quimby, Tom told me, I want him to go places at this mountain. Jim is now sitting in Tom's chair, behind Tom's desk, in Tom's office, and I know Tom is unbelievably proud of Jim.